first and foremost principle of CDD is that investment in response to the people's need. So means the major things in our for us is that in the supply driven development, when we give something to the community, there we never look into the demands of the locals. But in CDD, in the community driven development, we use it to give prioritize always the needs of the community. So that's why if we look into the demands of the community, then the development can progress very fast. Then the people can develop a sense of ownership. Then people can cooperate in the process of development, for which the development can be realized in a true sense. So that's why the first and foremost principle in CDD is that investment in response to the demands of the publics. So means we have to invest where the public is having the demand. It is not that the publics are having demand for the health center, will give them a road, because the road may not be much priority for them. And they're having huge suffer from the health. If you can establish a health center in their locality, they'll be much more benefited than a road. So that's why we have to investment and as per the response of the people, as per the demand of the locals. Then we have to think about the second principle is that build a participatory kind of mechanism for all the stakeholders. You see, the major problem, what exactly we are facing in all development projects, bringing all the stakeholders into one platform. So can we bring all the stakeholders into one platform? So that is the major concern. So what we have to do? We have to develop a mechanism where all the stakeholder can be involved and all the stakeholders can participate. That is the major concern for all of us. So means we should go and we should participate in the process of development. Suppose think about, suppose the government wants to develop a particular space for the ecotourism. So who are the major stakeholders? The major stakeholder people residing in that local, in that ecotourism site. Then they are the primary stakeholder. Then the other secondary stakeholders are the forest department officials. Then the officials belongs to the other line departments of the governments. So then the hotel industry will be another stakeholder. Then the local business vendors are also another stakeholders. Then the travel agency also one of the stakeholders. So what we have to do if we want to develop a kind of ecotourism site? So we have to bring all the stakeholders into one platform and have a constructive debate there, have a constructive consultation. There should be a participatory stakeholders consultation. Through that, what will happen? We can find out some outcome from this consultation and develop that. Through that, what will happen? The things can be well done instead of making the things in a very slow. We can make the things in a very progressive way. So that should be our major concern. So then the third principle is investment in capacity building of CBOs, community-based organizations. Because you see, if you look at the various CBOs, the civil society, then your SSG, then in the village level we have lots of committees are there. All these community-based organizations, they are not having that much capacity to look into the day-to-day matters, because things are keep on changing. They should be updated about the new rules, new guidelines, the new mechanism which the government is been developing day by day. So in order to make them more kind of efficient and smart enough to look into all these issues and carry forward the development process, so the government should come forward and in giving them capacity building training. Through that, what will happen? Once they are trained, once their human resources being developed, through that, what will happen? The process of development can be very fast. So that's why it was also another major principle of community-driven development. then facilitate the community about the information. Means the major hurdle in the contemporary societies is uh, means how to give a proper information. You see, anyhow, today we have developed a sense of multimedia, the social media, then different kind of network is being developed, so that the accessing the information is not so kind of problematic, but rather the accurate information should be given, and the government has developed lots of kind of mediums on providing the actual information to the public through mobile, through TV, through radio, through different kind of media. The government is newspaper. The government is trying to provide the information, and the community-driven development. The main approach is that all this information should be given to the publics. See, at a very kind of in a proper way and at a proper time. See, if you look into that, the different state governments also, they're developing different kind of mechanism to passing the information. Suppose during the last assembly election, Odisha government developed one very good informative brochure. Even they developed a project called PITA. So through that, put the hoarding in each panchayat levels at the grassroots levels, where the peoples can get the information that these are the schemes available for the local peoples and who are the eligible for what kind of schemes. So which helps the peoples to move forward and to grasp the development facilities. So that's why I'm telling the information should be given to the people very fast, and the mechanism should be developed where each and every citizen of this country can have access to the information, which is also major challenging for us, because otherwise you see the farmers are not aware about the minimum support price. The tribals are not aware about the minimum support price of non-timber forest products. So see, sometimes I have seen personally the tribals which they used to collect lots of mushrooms at the grassroots level in their own locality, but could not able to sell these products because of lack of market, lack of public information facilities. So that's why they are being trapped by the so-called high-profile officials, including both the government, non-government organizations. So they used to visit these tribal areas and they know the price of all these products in the market, and they can collect all these products from the tribal communities with a very low price. So that's why the proper information should be disseminated to the public. So which is also a main motto of CDD, that information should be accessed by all these communities. Information should not be restricted to a very particular domain of community. Rather, it should be spread over to each and every citizen of this country, through that the people have a proper access to the information. Then uh, uh, then the rules should be very simple and strong, because generally what exactly the major problem happen, we made the rules, sometimes the rules becomes very complex. So the main thrust of the series is that the rules should be very informative, very clear, and it should not having lots of jargon in between. The Because if the rules should be very clear, through that the each and every members of the community can have access to these rules and can have easily understanding to those rules. Because if we make a rules which is not clearly understood by the people, so that will be very much problematic. So then another very major principle of this series is the establishing and enabling the institutional and policy framework. So means we can make a policy, but how we can implement it, how we can enact this policy, fostering and enabling the environment includes means that means how, because you see sometimes what is exactly happening in our country, that we brought lots of acts, and when we bring the acts, lots of debate held, then we amend those acts. Then at the end, the government claims that we have brought lots of act for you, lots of policy for you. But in reality, we found that things are not moving in the right direction. Because you see, last week we were discussing about this Forest Right Act and roads. You see, 2006, the Forest Right Act came. Then it took again 2 more years to bring the rules. We brought the act, but we don't know how to implement. So then we took 2 more years again to bring the rules. Luckily in 2008, the rules came. But you see, today we have completed around 13 years of bringing the rules and bringing the acts around 15 years. After the 15 years, we are still struggling that how many people have really received the rights over the forest. How many states have come forward in implementing in a true spirit? Even there are a couple of states who have not yet started. And even those states who have started, their percentage is very less. So means we are bringing the act, but our mechanism, our institutional support is not that much fit. The government is telling we have established, we are giving MSP in forest-based products to tribal communities. But we are not thinking about the mechanism of collecting the products. See, I fix the price that I will buy the product by paying so and so much price to the tribal communities. Then I washed my hand that I have done, my government has done a very good job fixing the price for bringing the product from the public. But I have never thought that how to bring these products. Who will be the responsible person of bringing these products? If I feel that I have an agency which will bring this product, have I ever thought that how many persons are in job with my agency till now? Have I recruited the persons who are retired? Have I filled up the vacant post? Those agency which is engaged in procuring these products are efficient enough in procuring and storing these products? Do they have transport facilities? Do they have much accessibility to the very interior location of this country? We have never thought about that. Even if we thought, we have become silent of not doing anything on that. So what I'm telling, the major problem we are facing today is enabling institutional mechanism. See, I'll tell you one thing. The disaster, which is a very major threat for our country and also for the entire world. If you look at the Indian context, the government is spending huge money making a very disaster kind of guidelines. They always tell that as per rule, if you look at the disaster regulation and all, relief code, relief rule and all. See, everything is very fine. But in implementation, you'll never find. And you'll never find at the grassroots levels. Actually the panchayat should make every year before June, the panchayat should submit a disasters handbooks. Some record that to be handed over to the district administration. Then there should be a compiled district disaster handbooks. Then see, generally the government is spending money and giving trainings. Who are being trained by the disaster authorities? Those who are dealing, the officials whom they are training, that who can rescue the people at the time of disaster. But how many youths are available at the local areas? Almost all the youths are migrated. Though they are migrants, mostly also seasonal, some are permanent. But those who are mostly seasonal migrant, the government used to announce, then these people, whoever available at the local area, they used to get the training, and they become trained, who will be engaged in the rescue operation whenever any disaster will come. But in reality, whenever any disaster comes, these people are all floating people, migrant peoples. They never stay at the local areas. They mostly migrate to the city areas and stay there and get some money and back to the village for a few months. Occasionally they visit. So when disaster will come, they will never give an invitation to those people, please come back to your local area, I am coming. So we should give training to the women, we should give training to the widows, we should give training to the old peoples. We should start giving also training to the school children, going children. But it is not happening. Because they are the people who are in the local areas, who are living at the village. Because if you look at the entire village today, what is happening? Who is staying in the village now? The widows, the widowers, the destitutes, the old peoples left by their children, and some small kids roaming in the street of the roads. And their parents, all of them got migrated and settled in the city, or their relatives, whatever. So what I'm telling, we should have a proper institutional framework and policy framework to implement all these projects. Then maintain the flexibility in designing the rules and frameworks. That is another very, very major principle of CLD. See, whenever we are making any policy, when we are making a kind of framework for implementing, we should be much more flexible in preparing and developing those policy frameworks. But if you will not be flexible, if you will not be very kind of cooperative in nature, so then we cannot sustain the society. Because we should not be very rigid in our policy frameworks. We should be very much kind of helpful to the peoples. Then the another major principle is that ensure the social and gender inclusiveness. See, in most of the plan, programs, execution, implementation, what we are doing, we are not much bothered about the social inclusion. Today, what we are telling? We are telling the social exclusion and inclusive growth. Because you see, we spend huge money and experimented and found that unless and until we thought of inclusive growth, we cannot bring in inclusive development. So we have to bring back those socially excluded in the society and think of it kind of and also kind of bringing them into a major platform and include them. Because our approach is very gender sensitive. See, if you conduct a meeting at a far from the village, far from our locality, can the women attend the meeting? Does our rules and regulations and acts are women friendly or not? Are we really gender sensitive? How much approachable to the society to talk to the women, to bring them into forefront? All these things should be very, means how we can include in the process of development all these marginal communities. That is also major kind of principle of CDD. Design for the scaling up. See, how means our approach should be that while we are thinking about any development, we should always think about how we can develop certain kind of approach, strategy, through that the entire development process can be scaled up, people can go top, and the implementation can be in a very better way. And the how we can think of giving more emphasis on local governance, devolution of powers, and cluster-wise activities, monitoring and evaluation activities should be very fast. Then the last principle is that while we are implementing any project at the grassroots, we should be very much kind of we should be very much active in the sense that from the very beginning that we should convince to the public that we are implementing the project that one day will exit. Means it is not that, means investment should be in such a way that with a proper information that the time will come when the agency will exit. Because unless and until we made the people much aware that we'll exit one day, then the development cannot be realized. Because you see, otherwise it will be a parasite for the peoples. Because you see, if you are implementing any project, it is not that the public should always depend on the implementing agency. The implementing agency should make it very clear from the very beginning that the project is being implemented by the implementing agency for the time being, and the main motto is how to involve all the local peoples and sustain the project so that it is your project. After few years, we the implementing agency will quit this your area and will leave, and you have to completely take over this project on your own. Suppose the government is implementing the watershed projects. In very beginning, the government, the implementing agency is mobilizing the people, mobilizing the resource, doing the construction of the watershed, forming the water users association. But the main motto is after 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years, the implementing agency will quit. It is you people who have to sustain your organization, sustain your water users association, sustain your watershed. You have to take care of maintenance. You have to take care of your day-to-day functioning. So that means in the CDD, we usually gives the kind of signal from the very beginning that the implementing agency will quit on a particular, after particular day. Maybe years, maybe months, maybe days, whatever. So these are the 10 principles of the CDD. Then you see, if you look at this completely, this community-driven development, the main thrust of idea is that you go to the peoples, interact with them, meet them, live with them, stay with them, work with them, begins with what they have, plan and develop from what they know. And in the end, when the work is over, you'll see that they will proudly tell that they have done the work. Getting my point? It is not that tendency you develop as an outsider, as an implementing agency, whenever we go to any locality, don't develop a tendency that you know everything. This is the major drawback of our development projects. The implementing agency always feel that they knows everything, but CDD is not in favor of that. CDD tell the implementing agencies should go to an area, stay with them, live with them for a longer period, have an close interaction with these peoples, and and start the work, what they know, take the knowledge, what they know, make the plan strategy as per their knowledge. It is not that your knowledge will help them implementing the projects. So that should be the major spirit. So this is all about the social initiation and the major principle of this community driven development. Any question? Hello. Okay. Hope